Today, I'm going to talk about what might be your crap vocal sound. If we haven't met yet, I'm Steve Smith, and I have a genuine passion for lifting aspiring record producers and recording artists on the come up. Getting that magic vocal sound is sort of the holy grail of the record making process. Labels, producers, engineers, everybody's trying to make that emotionally compelling, sonically amazing vocal sound that reaches out and grabs the listener. I've got a list of 7 things that you might want to consider when you're thinking about how to put your vocal sound together. Step 1, don't be lazy. Learn the crap out of your part. Learn the words, learn the ups and downs of it, the ins and outs of it, so that you know that thing intimately. If you're not reading the words off of paper and you're able to deliver an emotional experience, it'll make a tremendous difference in the performance, and you'll find that people will respond to your performance in a completely different way. Step 2 is adjust the distance to the microphone. About 2 fists, or about here, is a great place to start. As you get closer to the microphone, the sound will fill out, become more full-bodied, more bassy, but sometimes if you get right up on the microphone, it starts to sound a little muffled and a little bit overloaded. As you come away, the sound tends to open up and sound brighter, but if you get too far away, it can start to sound a little bit thin. So you need to experiment with that. Every microphone is going to react to your voice a little bit differently. The thing is to be cognizant of that and make those adjustments until you get that engaging sound that you're really looking for. 3. This is a popper stopper. They used to make these out of nylons and a coat hanger. You don't really need to do that anymore. You can run down to the music store and get one of these things for pretty cheap. As a starting point, put that about a fist away. It creates a good little barrier so that you don't get too close to the microphone. What it does is it stops those explosion sounds that you get with P's and B's and wind exploding into the microphone. It's a really good cheap way to improve the vocal sound. 4. I think this is one of the most misunderstood things, and it's the height of the microphone. People, when they're singing live, sing down into a microphone, and they tend to do that if they're inexperienced when they're recording. So they get up above the microphone, or if it's facing the other way, same thing. The reason why we put them upside down is so that we can have wind go underneath without hitting the body. Now, if the mic is a little bit higher and gets the sound of your face, it'll tend to be less nasal. If it's lower, it'll get more of the sound coming out of your nose, and of course you get a more nasal sound. With the higher thing, you get more of the resonance of your head, and the sound tends to sound bigger. Plus, when you're singing, if you're singing here, the idea is that the wind goes underneath the microphone, and the microphone doesn't pick up those noises. You get a cleaner sound. And 5, you're going to hate this, but you got to get rid of your shit mic. This is a cheap microphone. It looks like this nice microphone, but it doesn't really do the same job. As a general starting point, you got to get into about a $500 microphone. Technology is always changing. A tip here is if your voice is a little bit on the bright, harsh side, look for something that's a bit more mellow in terms of a microphone. If your voice is dull, get something that's a little brighter. Don't be seduced by the brightest microphone. In the end, those tend to sound a little bit brittle. Try renting something, try borrowing something from a friend, and see what creates that magic on your voice. Every voice is different, and you're going to have to find the one that works right for you. I'm going to talk about 6 and 7 in the same breath. 6 is a preamp. A preamp, this is a big famous preamp. A preamp is what takes the level of the microphone and makes it loud enough that it can actually be recorded. An interface is what converts the signal from analog to digital, meaning that the computer can actually record it. Now, when they make records, they tend to use separate units and they tend to be sort of expensive. On the entry level, there are some interface preamp combinations that are quite good. The one I've had most success with is the Apogee one. Your mileage may vary. You want to look into that, but if you go too cheap, what happens is it never really gets clarity and depth, and it sort of sounds thin and brittle and razory and not in a good way. So check that out. Don't skimp too much in this department, but but you can probably get something going in the $200, $250 range that'll work quite well. It makes a big difference when you send it to someone like me who's going to mix it for you. I can really do a lot more with that vocal when it's well recorded and it's got a nice preamp sound on it. So what do you do now? Well, here's what we talked about. Get that performance dialed in. There's no substitute for delivering that emotional, in-tune, great-sounding performance. Get the right microphone for your voice. Your voice is a little bit duller, your voice is a little bit brighter. Choose the more mellow, choose the harder-sounding microphone, and then learn to use it. Learn to put it the right distance from yourself. Plug it into the right preamp and the right interface. All of a sudden, that whole recipe is starting to come together. If you're already recording, it would be really appreciated if you could leave something in the comments about what you're using, what the price range is, what you like about it, how it's working on your voice, what style of music you're doing, and share a little bit with others about what's working for you. We could probably learn a lot from that. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. If you're learning and you're putting yourself out there, making music and letting the world hear it, I've got nothing but respect for you. Please give yourself some love for being brave enough to do that. See you next time.